Hi, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome to the Grimdark Diaries.
We're your geek gal pals obsessed with true crime and all things dark and disturbing.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Megan, I gotta tell you, I've been having really weird dreams these last 2 weeks.
Really?
And it's really messing with my sleep.
Uh-oh, what are they about?
Well, as we all know, I'm a lover of Star Wars.
True.
And I have been like really, really extra into Star Wars lately. So I am like eat, sleep, breathe Star Wars. I'm just watching everything constantly and like rewatching the movies and the Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch.
I love it.
And I'm reading stuff online and I started listening to Star Wars podcasts.
Have you really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but then, which is great and I'm loving it. And I'm like just in this very Star Wars mood. Like I go 100 or 0. Like I am 100 Star Wars right now.
Well, you do have no chill, so.
I have no chill. So I'm just like super into it. But I keep having dreams where I'm like a rebel and the Empire is after me. And it's giving me like very scary dreams. Like I wake up in a panic.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
I keep waking up
no.
in a panic because the Empire is after me.
Oh no, but you're a badass bitch. Remember that.
I know, but I'm still like waking up because I'm having these dreams where like I'm on like these rebel missions and I'm trying to do stuff and the Empire's hot on my tail and there's Siths and stuff.
I thinking, because every time anytime I ever have a dream, I always look it up in like the dream moods dictionary or whatever. So you look up different things that you dream about, but I don't even think Star Wars would be in there. I don't know.
Somebody needs to write that and then let me know what it means that I'm having all these dreams that I'm on rebel missions.
That's right. What does it mean? I actually have never looked up to see if there's a Star Wars dream dictionary before, but
oh god,
if it doesn't exist, we should make one.
Yeah.
Although it probably
I'd
is
buy
just
that.
a lot of stress you're under, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I also am falling asleep to Star Wars every single day, so there's
That
also that.
Likely has a huge part in it. That's hilarious. You need to learn to control your dreams so that you can not wake up and just
like lucid dream.
Yeah, like kick butt. Just kind of like not wake up in real life, but like wake up in your dream and be like, yeah I'm gonna kick your ass because I can.
Usually I'm doing good. Like usually we're very successful in my dream rebel missions, but it's just the like fear of like being on the run. I'm like, oh god, I wake up and I'm like, oh god.
That's fair. It's an actual real feeling. I'll have to remember those when we get back into our Star Wars D&D campaign.
Yeah.
You can actually really play the role.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about how I found this story because if you remember, my category is worst day ever.
Yes.
And it was not easy to search, I'm not going to lie, because trying to search like...
Well, it's so broad.
It is very broad, yeah. So, but I also, anytime you look up any kind of murder or things like that and the worst day ever together, it's generally talking about the victims' families, which I totally get. And I totally understand that it would be considered the worst day ever for a family who may have lost a loved one or whatever. But I wanted to go with a different angle of a story because we're always trying to reach for stories that are not very well known. So I wanted to reach for a story where it was the worst day ever for the suspect and call them out on it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So we're gonna dive into this story. And yeah, if you have nothing else to say, I'll just dive right in.
Yeah, bring it to me.
We're starting our story by introducing Jane Frances Tyson. She was a 49-year-old woman who resided in Baltimore, Maryland. Jane was a mother of 3, a grandmother of 6, and was taking care of her elderly parents, while also being a teacher, dancer, baker, and caregiver.
She had a lot on her plate.
Yeah, but she loved to shop. She was a very, very active woman. She was well known to be a teacher aide who taught all of the rookie teachers how to be a good teacher at Riverview Elementary School in Southwest Baltimore County for 10 years. She was so well regarded, not only at work, but also in her local church as well as within her community. It would be nothing for Jane to go visit one of her neighbors if she learned that they were ill. Jane was exceptionally reliable and always went out of her way to be kind to people, not only to her family, but to everyone. She sounded like such an amazing person.
Yeah.
Jane was married to John Tyson, who was a principal at Johnny Cake Elementary School.
Johnny Cake?
Johnny Cake Elementary School.
That sounds like the greatest school.
Right? I just picture it made out of like, gingerbread or...
But aren't Johnny Cakes a kind of like pancake?
Are they? I don't know. I've never heard
I'm pretty sure Johnny Cakes is a food.
Well, okay, but like cake is also a food.
But I'm pretty sure it's like it's a breakfast food.
Oh, I've never heard of it before, but all I think of is cake, so... I wonder if it's because it bakes the shape of a cake when it's piled up. I don't know.
What
Johnny Cake? If it's pancakes, you pile them up and they are in the shape of a cake.
It's a cornmeal flatbread.
Oh, what? Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, it's prepared on the Atlantic coast from Newfoundland to Jamaica.
No way!
So we should know where this
We
is.
should know
We are on the Atlantic coast and we're
Welp.
very tight with Newfoundland.
A little bit, I guess. I feel a little ashamed. Well, we need to start making some Johnny cakes.
Yeah. So we all learned something today.
Yes.
We talk about murder and we learn things.
That's right. We are educational as well.
God, I hope not.
I know. Like, please don't listen to anything we say and learn
do
from
not
us.
learn things from us.
No. Highly recommend not doing that. So the two of them, Jane and John, they had lived in Catonsville neighborhood of Westview Park. They were both regularly active in their church in the Woodlawn area called St. Lawrence Church. Jane was taking classes there to become Catholic. She was so excited to be able to join the church. Reverend Lou Martin said that she was like a little kid about it. She was so giddy, which is adorable to think about.
Yeah, that's super sweet.
Yeah. Jane and John were very much in love, even after all these years. It was obvious to everyone around them. John would do anything for Jane, and Jane would do anything for John. They often went bowling together and worked together in their garden, tending it side by side. Also adorable.
That's sweet.
Yeah. They would often travel together. Those were the days, eh? Traveling? Do you remember traveling? I love traveling. Sometimes even with elder hostel programs, which I didn't even know were a thing. Apparently, there are travel programs for adults that also include education, which actually sounds super cool.
Cool.
I'd love to do that someday. I love learning while I am in the places that you learn them from. It's kind of like the school trips that we took as kids.
We didn't get school trips.
Oh.
We were taken to the Fortress of Louisburg.
That would be fun. I've never been there before.
Oh my goodness, you've never been there?
No, I haven't. And the one time we went up there, everybody was like, we've already done it, so we don't want to do it again. And I'm like, oh,
really?
It's fine. Yeah.
Oh, it's very fun. It's like a whole other world in there.
I can't even imagine. I've seen pictures of it before, but it looks like a whole production.
It is. It's an entire town that's like you travel back in time.
Oh, it's a
huge.
town. Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a whole town. Yeah, it's huge. And they do, I don't know if they do anymore because of COVID and everything, but they used to do like a nighttime kind of ghost tour. And so you would get to go through the city at night on like the cast members or whatever they call them there would tell like ghost stories and stuff. And it's super creepy because everything is like of that time, so there's no electricity, so it's literally just like candlelight and stuff.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that would be very cool. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if they still do the nighttime tours. That might be a thing of the pre-COVID times, or I don't know if we'll bring them back.
That's fair. Well, it would be worth looking into anyway. So John and Jane were in the process of planning a trip down south to one of the Carolina states. On June 6, 1991, Jane took two of her grandchildren, 6-year-old Adam and 4-year-old Carly, to go to the Westview Mall, which is near Baltimore, to go look for tennis shoes to buy for their trip. It would be at 9 p.m. that night when John Tyson got a call that would turn his life upside down. He was being notified that his wife, Jane, had been shot. A man approached the driver's side of the vehicle she was getting into around 8:30 p.m. when witnesses who were there on scene heard a gunshot, then noticed a man running across the parking lot and jumped into a Chevrolet Blazer. One of the witnesses took off after the suspect. and another one brought the children to safety into the security office that was inside the mall. The police were called. They very quickly apprehended the suspect in this case. His name was Wesley Eugene Baker, and he had just fatally shot and robbed Jane. He and his accomplice, Gregory Lawrence, had taken her purse, which had a sole $10 in it.
So that was their whole purpose? They were just robbing her?
They were robbing her. And you'll find out later that she says no. So what we think happened is that she said no to them when he said hand over the purse or something.
Yeah.
And then he just shot her and
My
killed
goodness.
her. Jane ended up finding a pair of tennis shoes, which were still lying on the front seat of her car. Wesley Baker was charged with first-degree murder and armed robbery. Gregory Lawrence was charged as an accomplice to both. The state of Maryland filed a notice to advice that it had plans to seek the death penalty pursuant to Maryland Code, Article 27-412B1I. Reverend Lou Martin was called by Jane and John's eldest daughter, Karen Saluski, asking him to come to their home to console the family who was grieving the loss of someone. Jane's daughter was now married and had a different last name. It was no longer Tyson. So the Reverend didn't actually know whose house he was going to. And when John opened the door, the Reverend asked him what he was doing there. That's when John told him that it was Jane that was shot and murdered. The Reverend couldn't believe it. He said he lost his breath. He was just as heartbroken and just sat with the family while they all grieved together. A few days after the funeral, John and Jane's neighbor and friend Betty Ireland said that she had tried to bring over food to John to help console him when he said, quote, "I don't miss the food. I miss the cook," end quote.
Oh.
I know.
That's heartbreaking.
I'm not going to lie. This story had me tearing up when I was writing it. It's very, very heartbreaking. Jane's elderly parents didn't get left behind. Her oldest daughter took over the role of taking care of them. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree here. Wesley and Gregory were both tried separately. Gregory was very quick to point the finger at Wesley for being the one who shot and killed Jane Tyson. Wesley was 33 years old at the time of the murder, and Gregory was 34. Gregory, who was from Woodlawn, Maryland, went to trial and defended himself, saying, quote, "I took a person to a store, not knowing of his intention. There was no reason at all that I would go out and rob someone," end quote. He showed the courts that he and his wife, who was a correctional officer, were both employed at the time of the murders and weren't in need of any money. A jury ended up convicting Gregory on October 24th, 1991, for being an accomplice to murder, robbery, and handgun charges for being the lookout for Wesley, as well as being the getaway driver in the shooting that killed Jane Tyson. Also because of the robbery of the $10 from her purse.
Nice. Get him on everything.
Right? Exactly. The state's attorney, Sandra A. O'Connor, said that it was found that he and Wesley were deliberate in, quote, "going to a popular mall and in cold blood, killing somebody who was there to buy tennis shoes for her grandchildren. If it weren't for Mr. Lawrence, the crime would not have happened," end quote. Gregory Lawrence got 43 years before even being considered for parole. During the shoot, Gregory was already on parole after serving 7 years in jail on a 20-year sentence for armed robbery of a 7-Eleven near the mall. The judge in this case, Judge James T. Smith Jr., decided to reinstate the 13-year sentence from his previous robbery charge, and then added a consecutive 20-year term for the handgun charge, plus a life sentence for Jane Tyson's murder. Go Judge Smith.
Nice.
That was like, you just do whatever you can, right? Like, give him the max on every charge that he didn't have and
yeah,
tack back on the 13 years that he didn't serve for his first charge because he was on parole. So clearly
he learned nothing from...
Nothing at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
During this time, Wesley Eugene Baker was also being tried for the murder and robbery of Jane Tyson. Wesley declined to testify at his own trial. During the trial, there was a stipulation that was brought forth from Adam, Jane's 6-year-old grandson's testimony, that would be admitted into evidence. It stated that when Adam and Carly were both getting into the vehicle, a man ran up to them, and Adam overheard his grandmother yelling, "No!" And that is when the man in question shot her in the head, and then he saw blood coming out of her mouth.
Oh my heart. Oh.
Right? How traumatizing that must have been for him. I cannot even imagine. Those poor children. My heart just aches for them.
That's, I don't know. Even if this guy was like, I have to rob this woman, if he was so compelled, How old was she? Couldn't he have just grabbed the purse and shoved her?
That's one of the defense's arguments is she was 49 years old and she was a little petite woman.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to shoot somebody in the head.
No.
Just push her down on the ground and grab her purse. Like,
honestly, like, if he really needed it, like,
right, exactly.
Why
needed the whole $10
shoot her
that
in
she
the
had.
head?
Right, exactly. That was just, I can't even imagine. And with the kids there and everything, like, how cold-hearted can you be? After this, Adam saw the man run into the blue truck, which was the Chevrolet S10 Blazer. Got in, and that's when the truck fled from the scene. The medical examiner that reviewed the scene was Dr. Ann M. Dixon, and she testified that Jane's gunshot wound was a contact wound. This basically means that the end of the gun was against her ear on the left side at the time that it was discharged.
Ugh, that's awful.
I can't even begin to imagine. Another witness who was at the scene when she heard the gunshot go off was Carolyn Davis. As soon as she heard the gunshot, she looked over in the direction of where it came from and saw young Adam running up to her. Adam told Carolyn that his grandmother was dead. Carolyn bravely walked over to the vehicle where his grandmother was laying on the ground with blood coming from her head. One other witness, Scott Faust, advised that he had been driving by the mall, and that's when he saw the blue Chevrolet Blazer parked in the parking lot. Nothing out of the ordinary until he saw a man enter the driver's side of the vehicle shortly before a man who was running from another nearby vehicle and jumped into the passenger side of the truck. That's when the truck sped quickly out of the parking lot. Scott then courageously followed the Blazer out of the parking lot while writing down the license plate number and tried to get a good look at the driver and passenger of the vehicle, knowing that they were up to no good. He didn't know at the time what had happened. He just knew that they were up to no good.
Ooh, smart man.
Brave Scott Faust for doing that.
Yeah. He has good intuition.
Right, exactly. Yep. The truck windows were rolled down, so he was able to get a pretty good description of them to the police who had arrived on scene by the time he made it back. Gregory and Wesley were in the Blazer flying down Security Boulevard when they passed an unmarked police car that was already aware of the vehicle, make, model, and license plate number. The unmarked police vehicle had Baltimore County police officers Frank Barrel and Nick McGowan inside, on duty and ready to catch the suspects. As soon as they saw the suspect's vehicle, they turned their lights on and ended up chasing them at a high rate of speed until the suspects turned down Old Frederick Road, which is where they pulled over to the side of the road, and Wesley got out and tried to flee on foot. The two officers pulled over and arrested Gregory Lawrence on the spot. Another officer arrived on scene, Officer James Conboy, who went after Wesley on the side of the road, where he was soon arrested as well. Another officer who was on scene, Officer William Harmon, happened to see what looked like blood splattered on Wesley's sock and shoe. Upon further inspection, the blood was not only on his sock and shoe, but also up his leg as well. There was no blood found on Gregory during this inspection. This blood was later revealed to be Jane Tyson's blood. When searching the area where the truck pulled over, police also found Jane's white purse, an empty plastic card holder, as well as her wallet.
That's why he was running. He was trying to throw the evidence.
I think so, yeah, because it was found all over the area. These items were later identified in the trial as belonging to Jane Tyson. A bank card of Jane's was later found inside the Blazer. Fingerprints were taken from inside of Jane's vehicle. Guess whose fingerprints were on the driver's side door and window? Yep. Wesley Eugene Baker's. At the end of the trial, a jury found Wesley guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, felony murder, robbery with a deadly weapon, and the use of a handgun during the commission of a felony. By a special verdict, the jury also found Wesley was a principal in the first degree. Baker then elected to be sentenced by Judge Seipert O. Whitfill. Scott was able to successfully identify Wesley Eugene Baker as a suspect in a lineup the night of the murder. He was also able to positively identify him during the trial. During the sentencing hearing, the state gathered and displayed all of the evidence from the trial, as well as decided now was the time to introduce Wesley's prior criminal convictions. They were unauthorized use in 1975 and 1978, 2 1979 convictions for robbery with a deadly weapon, and a 1989 conviction for unlawful possession of a pistol and a controlled dangerous substance. When Wesley murdered Jane Tyson, he was actually on parole for less than 9 months. Also during the sentencing, the state presented John Tyson's impact statement testimony to show the impact that Jane's death had on him and on the other members of the family. On the defense side, Councilman Gary W. Christopher advised that he was going to call up 2 witnesses, Wesley's mother and Lori James, who was a social worker who had prepared a history of Wesley's family to be able to testify in his behalf. However, Wesley requested that they did not call them. Defense counsel Gary Christopher said, quote, Mr. Baker has, as I have said, directed us to not call either of these 2 witnesses, and I think it's fair to say that I understand, in a sense, why. Because there were going to be very painful kinds of things testified about. But we have to respect Mr. Baker's very clear, unequivocal, and express directions to us, and therefore we will not be calling those 2 witnesses. The judge responded by saying, quote, I certainly have a concern from my standpoint of not hearing anything about Mr. Baker's social background. The defense counsel responded to the judge by saying, quote, Your Honor, 2 comments. 1, in our judgment, as an officer of the court, we have to recognize that the court has the common law power to call any witness the court desires on making a determination on anything. The second comment is, if asked, Mr. Baker will indicate in that person before Your Honor now that he does not wish you to call those 2 individuals as court's witnesses, end quote. The judge was also told that Wesley had refused to testify at his own trial because it would prove to be embarrassing for his family. After discussing this further with the courts, the following conversation happened between the judge and Wesley Baker. The court said, Mr. Baker, my inclination at this moment is to ask those witnesses to testify, recognizing that information may come out which could be painful to you or painful to other members of your family, but also looking at the reality of the decision that I have to make, literally, whether or not you live or die, and that whatever pain that your family is suffering from the information coming out, in my judgment, is not apt to be more painful than it would be if I imposed a sentence of death and did not have the information and the feeling that had they overridden your choices, that at least that would have been considered. So I am at a loss as to believe that any more pain can be inflicted on your family than a sentence of death without their having the opportunity to speak. Do you wish to comment? The defendant, Wesley, said, Yes, I feel like the information would be more damaging than helpful to me. The court said, Say that again? And the defendant said, I feel as though the information would have been more damaging than helpful towards me and my case. So the court said, Is that your reason for asking that I not do this? Because you believing it is more damaging? And the defendant said, That reason and personal reasons. After this exchange, the judge decided that he wasn't going to call either of those witnesses to testify.
So we don't get to hear his family spill the tea?
Nobody spills the tea. But I did dig up some information about him. So we'll find out a little bit here
Detective Megan
I know,
on
right?
the case.
That's right. I cannot leave any stones unturned anymore. After all the closing arguments and weighing all of the evidence at hand, the judge sentenced Wesley Baker to death. Wesley's death warrant was signed in April 2002 by a judge. Wesley was 47 years old at the time, and his lawyers tried to persuade the courts to postpone his execution, all while trying to have his death sentence overturned. Just after signing of the death warrant, Wesley's lawyers petitioned the governor for clemency, saying that there was still doubt that Wesley was the one who killed Jane Tyson.
What? I don't understand.
I know.
What is the doubt?
There's literally no doubt.
And I'm assuming they would have tested him for gunshot residue.
Exactly. I think it's because he never admitted it.
What criminal is going to admit that they did it?
Right? Exactly. The evidence clearly spoke. Anyway, apparently his lawyers thought they had a leg to stand on. So, in this petition, the lawyers laid out the fact that Wesley only did what he did because of his horrific childhood. Trigger warning, the next sentence is about rape. So if you do not want to hear this, then I highly recommend skipping ahead probably 10 seconds. He was born in 1958, the product of a 14-year-old girl who was raped. The lawyers Gary Christopher and William Purpura wrote, quote, prior to age 5, Mr. Baker was abducted and sexually abused by 2 teenage girls. His stepfather physically abused Mrs. Baker and forced a young Wesley to watch him inject heroin intravenously. Mr. Baker's drug and alcohol abuse began at the age of 10, and by age 14, he had graduated to intravenous heroin use.
Oh, at the age of 10?
At 14.
Well, you said he started at the age of 10.
At the age of 10, yeah, drugs and alcohol abuse at the age of 10. I know, I can't even wrap my head around that.
I was drinking Kool-Aid and eating fruit by the foot.
And eating the powder of Kool-Aid all by itself. Did you ever do
See,
that?
I did not do that.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well,
I've heard people do that. But there's no sugar in the powder.
No, but you just lick the powder and it's all soury, and it reminded me of
Fun Dip?
The Pexels. Do you remember or Pixels maybe? The long sticks.
Pixie sticks?
Pixie sticks, thank you. I was like, what is
Pexels?
the word? I know, I don't know. Listen, I don't buy those anymore.
I was thinking Fun Dip, where you get a bag of sugar and then you use a sugar stick to dip it in the sugar and you lick it.
Except I think it was a little more sour than it was sweet. Because there was no sugar, right? So
Kool-Aid didn't have any sugar. You add like the 10 cups of sugar or whatever it was.
It was like the flavor of sour that sucks your cheeks in. Well, for me, anyway, it was. Oh, God. Well, anyway, back to the story about drug and alcohol abuse. Dear Lord. A 10-year-old should not be doing those things. It's so sad.
No, they also shouldn't be eating as much sugar.
No, that's true.
As Pixie Sticks and Kool-Aid.
That's fair. Yeah, no, they definitely shouldn't be. Although, it was good times, I must say. So at age 15, he fathered a child with a 28-year-old intravenous heroin user as well. We don't offer that as an excuse, but as an explanation. We start with the proposition that he'll be imprisoned for life. End quote. That was a quote. So we kind of interrupted it with our tangent, but you understand what that was. Only 1 week before Wesley was scheduled to be executed, Governor Paris N. Glendenning decided that now would be the time to declare a moratorium on all executions, at least until the state legislature was able to review a study that was put together about the possible racial bias in Maryland's system of capital punishment. Wesley's mother, Dolores Williams, visited her son in prison on May 2002, and afterwards released a statement to the media that said, quote, I'm so appreciative of what everyone did. I'm grateful to Governor Glendenning for staying my son's execution from the bottom of my heart. End quote. None of the people who were on death row during this time were to be executed until the moratorium was lifted. Governor Glendenning's term was up shortly after the moratorium was petitioned, and so in 2004, the governor who took his place, Robert Ehrlich, ended the moratorium and resumed executions. Wesley Baker's new date of execution was December 5th, 2005. On that date, all day long, Wesley was being visited by his family and friends. Some he spoke to by phone. The people who went to see him said that he again expressed remorse for the shooting that killed Jane Tyson in front of her 2 grandchildren. Later that evening, all of the witnesses who wanted to see the execution were escorted to a conference room at the Maryland State Penitentiary. It would be here that they, along with members of media and family, that they wait to be taken into the viewing room. 4 witnesses from Jane Tyson's side of the family were observing the execution from a different viewing room, so luckily they weren't together. Wesley's defense attorney, Gary Christopher, was there. In this room, he said, quote, he is not who he was on the worst day of his life, end quote. Not long after this, just after 9 p.m. that Monday, they were all escorted to the viewing room. They sat down across from the window pane that was a one-way glass and appeared as a mirror for a moment. Once the room went dark, they saw a curtain draw open, and there they saw Wesley Eugene Baker lying on a gurney strapped down with leather straps. It would be 14 years after he fatally shot Jane Tyson, and now he was about to be executed for it. At 9:18 p.m., Wesley Eugene Baker was pronounced dead. The death penalty was finally abolished in Maryland by Governor Martin O'Malley, who signed the bill on May 2nd, 2013. And that is the story of Jane Tyson's murder.
Do they do injection, I'm assuming.
That
if he
was
on a
injection.
gurney.
Yeah. I didn't really want to go, and they actually, in this one article that I read, they actually went into great detail because it was media who was in the room and saw it. But I'm like, it's very dark.
We don't need, people can Google that on their own.
Exactly. If you want to know exactly how it sounded, then you can look that up on your own time. But that's not something I wanted to talk about on the podcast.
No.
So apparently he had the worst day of his life, and he decided to rob somebody for money and got a whole $10 out of it and murdered an innocent woman in front of her grandchildren.
Was there any statements about how her family felt about the death penalty? I feel like if some of them attended, then
they pretty much kept really hush hush. I mean, they wrote statements for the courts, but there was not really
impact statements, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they declined to interview in most of the articles that I read, so, which I don't blame them. They were affected horribly by it, and they did not want to rehash it over and over again. Like, he kept appealing his death sentence over and over again over the years. Like, he was in jail for like 10 years before the actual first execution date was supposed to hit. And during that time, he continually appealed and wanted to bring it up again over and over again. So the family had to continually go through this appeal process and try to knock it down every single time.
Yeah.
And have to relive that horrible story over and over and over again. It's just like it brought up all the memories all over again every single time it happened. And in this particular case, it just felt like the day it happened every time. So
it's awful.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. So, I mean, I did read one thing that they said, that John Tyson had said in the trial, that he said that it was not, like, the pain doesn't ever go away. It doesn't even get easier. You just live with the same pain every single day.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine.
Losing the one that you love. Like, I can't imagine. And hearing all of the stories of all the things. Like, I didn't even write everything I could have about how close they were.
Yeah.
That couple, they had 3 kids together. They had 6 grandkids. They were, like, such a huge, loving family. And that not once did they ever get to a point where they were not madly in love with each other. Like,
That's heartbreaking.
It is so heartbreaking that had to happen. Like, why do bad things happen to good people is why I always wonder. These stories really hit me hard. This was a hard story to write, I'm not gonna lie. It was a little teary-eyed trying to write this story, because it's just like that's the dream, right? Like, you find your soulmate and spend the rest of your life with them, but then one of you gets taken away far too soon by some idiot.
I don't like to think about that.
Right? Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, who does want to think about that, really? But
yeah, I always tell my husband, if something happens to him, I'll kill him.
Yeah, that's fair. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of the story of, I don't know.
It's the worst day ever all around for lots of people.
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't make this the worst day for you, even though you're listening to our podcast.
No, because we bring so much joy with
That's right.
our voices.
Yes, exactly. Well, we hope so anyway. I mean, some of the things that come up during the story and some of the, it's just natural. Some of the stuff that comes up in the middle or in the beginning of the story, whatever we try to.
Well, like I say, we take our cases very seriously, but we don't take ourselves very seriously.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. That's what we're all about here at the Grimdark Diaries.
Yeah. Megan, did you know that it's a full moon tonight?
Oh, it is a full moon. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's the strawberry full moon.
It is.
Oh, and it's a super moon too, isn't it?
It is. Nah.
Actually,
is the strawberry a super moon?
I just read an article today. I think it was
I'm pretty sure last
today.
month's full moon was a super moon.
And I think they said this was going to be the last super full moon of the year.
Oh.
I'm going to look it up really quickly. Strawberry?
I love the strawberry full moon.
Yeah. It does not look like a strawberry, folks.
No. It is strawberry season here in Nova Scotia. And
that's true.
The local berries are delicious.
I want to do a U-pick sometime, but I've never done one before.
Well, right now is strawberry season. Now's the time.
Now's the time to do it. I know I need to do it. My friend at work was telling me that they and their partner went to a U-pick on the weekend and they got 2 or 3 quarts of strawberries. I'm like, I want want to do that now.
Oh, they're the best berries. I find the ones from Nova Scotia are the best ones.
So from space.com, the full strawberry moon, the last supermoon of 2021, rises tonight.
Yay.
Yeah. So I'm going to go for a walk later in the dark by myself.
And bring silver bullets with you?
Yeah, that's right. I will be safe from werewolves. Don't worry.
Unless you are a werewolf.
Oh, I mean, I'm not gonna tell, obviously. It's a full moon. I think you'd know by now, maybe.
No, it's not out.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, when does it rise?
The sun is still setting.
That's right.
When do we have to wrap up this recording?
That's right. Yeah, not for any reason why I'm asking, but
no.
So do you have big plans tonight for the full moon?
I'm gonna do a tarot spread for myself. I always do one on the full moon.
Oh, you'll have to post on social media.
I will. I'll post on the Instagram story, so people are going to see it before this comes out. And
that's
then
right.
It's like I'm traveling through time.
That's the best way to do it, though, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I like doing tarot spreads on the full moon because that's when the moon has very powerful energy and it is most powerful during the full moon. So it's a great time to do a tarot spread. And then I do one that's kind of like, I always do the same one on full moons. And so it's kind of like looking forward for the next month until the next full moon and what it'll look like.
Yes, I'm very excited to hear what that means.
Yeah, hopefully it's good things.
I have no doubt that good things are coming for you guys over the next month. I have no doubt.
I certainly hope so.
Especially considering things are opening up again and we'll get to travel some more.
I can visit my bestest buds in New Brunswick soon. And one of them is coming to visit me.
Oh, really?
Well, she's coming to visit Nova Scotia. Not just me, but I get to see her.
Yeah, it's kind of for you.
Yes, she's coming in 2 weeks, and I'm so freaking excited I could actually scream because we were worried because the border was gonna be open and then it was maybe not gonna be open, but like kind of open. And
seriously,
now it's open.
If you haven't heard it in the news, Nova Scotia had a blockade at our borders between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia because they were protesting the borders not opening.
So then they blocked the border. So they were mad because they couldn't cross the border without quarantining.
There's travel restrictions between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia.
So you were allowed to travel. You just had to have depending on your level of vaccination, you had a modified quarantine with like a negative COVID test. And so they were protesting the blocking of the border by blocking the border.
Super makes sense.
It's the stupidest thing ever.
Like,
they're idiots.
Oh God, it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And then there were rumors that they were going to come into Halifax and block the bridges here, which I'm thankful they didn't do.
That would get stopped real quick.
Yeah, it really would. And maybe they stopped it before it happened. I don't know how low key that was.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, people in this province. I mean, we're Canadian, but we still have idiots in our province.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, with all the opening and stuff like that, like the next month I think is going to be really good. Have lots of travel plans, like camping and going hopefully away with our friends.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to have a great podcast episode after that trip.
Oh, I can't wait. We might be in a little rough shape. I don't know. Maybe not. It's going to be fun. I'm very excited.
Me too. Is it time to roll?
Yes, it's time to roll, Nikki. It is your turn.
Okay. Let's see if I can get higher than a 6. Oh, it's behind my cup. Oh, I got a 10.
No way.
That's pretty good for me.
Hey, we haven't gotten a number above 7 or 8 in a while. So
no. Yeah, I'm not mad about a 10.
No. So what's your category?
My category is Vacation Gone Wrong.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I immediately thought of The Millers for some reason. Have you ever seen that movie?
The Millers?
Oh, God.
No, I don't think I did.
Is it We're the Millers? I don't know. I can't remember. It's got like Jennifer Aniston in it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but no, I did not see it. Do they have a bad vacation?
It's actually really funny. I don't even think they're related. They're just like, I cannot remember the storyline. It's like they're convicts or they're like escaped convicts or something. And they're trying to like pretend they're a happy-go-lucky family together going on a road trip in an RV. It's actually one of the funniest movies. But yeah, I remember absolutely nothing of the storyline, of course.
Well, if I can't find a true crime story, I'll just recite the entire plot of the Millers movie.
Hey,
or
that would
whatever
be...
it's called.
Yeah, because I don't even know.
I'm not even sure.
Is it even really a movie? I don't know.
Yeah. Megan is just making stuff up, so we're going to bounce.
That's what I usually do, yeah.
Yeah. If you want to find us on social media, you can find us at The Grimdark Diaries. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and we are on Twitter at Grimdark Diaries. You can hit us up with an email. We are thegrimdarkdiaries@gmail.com. We would love it if you could follow us or subscribe, depending on where you listen to us. If you're on Apple Podcast, give us a 5-star rating and a comment, because that really helps us, and it helps all the algorithms and weird technical things that I do not understand. So we would love you eternally if you could do that. Make sure you catch us next week to see what I come up with for Vacation Gone Wrong. And remember, a friend in the dark beats alone in the light.